This is Dr. Chris's radio horror program here on WCW. If you're not catching this recorded interview at the beginning of October, hopefully you're catching it later on in the month before Halloween. Tonight on the show, if you happen to go to Salem, hopefully you're going to check out Essex Street with all its awesome different shops and other interesting activities. Not as big of events as we've had previously, but everyone's going to still try and make Halloween fun. Hopefully you checked out my article in Worcester Magazine, which should be being published around this time, about what to do in a Halloween pandemic and some of the things that you can still make your Halloween exciting and fun. But these guys celebrate Halloween 365 days a year, just like we do here at Radio of Horror. From the Vamp Fangs company, been around since 1993, which I didn't even realize. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Ben.
I'm Alexis.
And we are the owners of Vamp Fangs.
And you guys also host the, last year were two pretty successful vampire balls in the Hawthorne Hotel.
Yeah, we held the New England franchise for Endless Night Vampire Ball, which is the world's largest producer of vampire events. And so every year here we have a couple of smaller events, a little more intimate, called salons, which I think is what you were referring to. And leading up to what was supposed to be this year was going to be the Endless Night Salem Vampire Ball, but we have rolled that over to 2021. But that was positioned to be quite an event.
We're really bummed that it didn't happen, but safety is number one priority for everybody. Massachusetts governor kind of made some regulations that made things impossible anyways, which is kind of in everyone's favor in the end because safety and all. But the ball that is going to be coming for 2021 is going to be epic, to say the very least. So it's going to be, the date is October...
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yes, we will. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you can say it's October, so 2021 next year.
Yes. Yep. So it's, I want to say it's the weekend of the 16th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I will
So
double check
basically,
on that.
we take over the entire hotel, every bookable room, every rentable space, the lobby, everything's ours. Every bar space. It's the first time in the Hawthorne's history where they've allowed a private group to purchase the entire hotel and literally make it closed to the public. This is the first truly private event at the Hawthorne. And so the vampires taking over the whole space.
They're
you can imagine
taking over the hotel.
it's going to be probably quite the scene, decor-wise,
Yes.
environment-wise, overall vibe and feel. We have full control of the entire place, so very fun.
A lot of great stuff planned. We're very, very excited for it.
Now, when you say you've been from what I read, been around since 1993, you've been around since 1993 in Salem, or have you been at that location on Essex Street?
The original owner of things, he started back in '93, and what he used to do, he used to custom fit fangs outside on the pedestrian walkway.
Right. Okay. I was like, how have I walked past that and not seen that? I was really confused. I was like, it's right next to a comic book store I go to all the time whenever I'm in Salem.
Yeah.
How did I miss this? Okay, now that makes more sense.
Yes.
Well, the retail,
I thought it was like a Harry Potter thing. You had to be a vampire to see it.
Which is also true. So welcome. I'm glad you can see us now.
But yeah, so
Sorry.
And he used to do fairs and festivals.
Right.
And
Yeah. Okay. Outside, like a cart, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have seen it. Okay.
He did King Richard's Fair. We actually have the original sign from 1993 in the shop from King Richard's Fair.
Yep.
Groovy.
But then he went
for
online.
custom things.
He went online for about 20 years, and it was just exclusively an online retailer, e-com. And then Alexis and I purchased the brand in 2017, and then it was 1 year later that we opened up the retail shop that you know of in Salem. So we opened officially to the public at the very end of August of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Salem's, probably Massachusetts, but I'm not too up on the retail history of Massachusetts. First, like a vampire themed store that's just like all vampire stuff galore.
So we are one of now 2 vampire stores in the entire country. I know country for sure. there's us, and then there's Boutique de Vampire down in New Orleans. And we're the only 2 vampire stores, like I said, in the United States. So definitely for sure new to Salem, but new to the US as well.
Why vampires?
Why not vampires?
You can't answer a question with a question.
I can do whatever I want because I am a vampire and that's how we roll.
Okay, so that's 2 questions now. You have to say why vampires, but then now you have to go back and explain what you just said as well to the audience who's not overly educated or familiar with why you just called yourself that.
Okay, so why vampires? Because they're amazing in many different forms. You want to jump in on that one too?
We ask the tough questions here on Radio Horror.
I know. We're
the hard-hitting questions. We want the truth.
Oh no.
Because we don't get into politics and religion, because politics is and religion is, whatever. It depends on what you're into. But this is this is what we get into.
Yeah.
I mean, I think why vampires? I mean, I think everybody knows. I mean, especially from this area, right? I mean, there's some kind of like sexy mystique around witchcraft, but everyone's very familiar with the witches, right?
Mm-hmm.
With witchcraft and with the magical elements of that. And I think people are less familiar with the vampire side of things. But I think there's an equal level, if not more, perhaps, because of the mystique and mystery around vampires and vampirism, to where people, and we even see it sometimes when people walk by our shop, they'll stop outside and like almost hesitate and not want to step in. They don't really know what we are or why we're there or like what we do. They kind of peek in and they almost in some cases don't even want to cross our threshold. And we have to say to them, well, no, that's the other way around. Come on in. Come on in.
Why hasn't someone written that story yet? That vampires have to invite the humans in order to get to them.
Right.
And those are all questions that we get asked when people come in the shop. Like, all the questions of what you would assume a vampire is. Like, do you guys drink blood? No, we do not. And we do not condone that in the shop. And not something that we will advise you to do for safety and health reasons.
Not in the shop, but...
No.
If you come to this event at midnight,
right now,
bring your COVID test, your AIDS test, and no, sorry, go ahead.
No, we don't allow any of that at any of our events either. So there's no form of any bloodletting or blood play. Or
all of our events are strictly takeout events.
Yes.
Whatever you want to do in your own room or the privacy of your own space is your business.
But that is a thing. I mean, there is a
small percentage.
A small percentage of vampires that are called sanguine, and they do feed on blood. It's again not anything that we condone or do in our shop, or who we are, but power to the ones that are, and that's their thing. There's different kinds of vampires. So there's lifestyle vampires that enjoy being around other vampires in the community, which there is a vampire community, a large one. And so there's lifestylers, there's the sanguine that we spoke about.
Well, the lifestylers, when you're talking about lifestyle, I think people who, might dress a certain way, attend certain events, overall just kind of lead kind of a dark gothic type lifestyle. That's kind of what we think of in the as lifestyle. You get the fandom, which are your typical fans, right? And you've got camps just like with any other genre. People who are hardcore Anne Rice or hardcore, and that kind of thing, and they just kind of sort themselves
or
in.
Who enjoy, the cosplay aspect of it as well, and Vampire the Masquerade, which is a role-playing game.
Oh yeah. Did you guys see that there's a comic book now?
I did see that. We're very excited about it.
I know. Tim Seeley is a great writer. If you're familiar with Cassie Hack, his Goth Girl Hunter of Slashers series.
We're very, very excited about it. It's something that's I think they're going to do a great job with it. I really do.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Those are the lifestylers.
Yep. And then sanguine. And what are we missing?
You get the energy.
Yep. So the stereotypical psychic vampire that everybody is afraid of, I guess. That I know in town there's lots of like anti-psychic vampire potions and I just use the potions word. I hate that. Oh my God. I apologize, everybody.
You're
the
not.
worst ever.
What does that mean? You're not allowed to use the word potion? Is that derogatory?
No, it just there's just within the witch community around here, using the word potions just drives me absolutely crazy.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I forgot what I was saying.
Energy.
Oh, yeah.
Energy.
Yep. So the traditional psychic vampire, which unethically will feed on your energy, but then there's also, the psychic vampirism that is ethical feeding, which I don't think a lot of people understand or talk about really as much.
When you think about the energy vampires, which people use that term synonymously with psychic vampires, but there is kind of a difference, and consent, I think, really is a big differentiator in those instances. Sometimes it's a personal exchange of energy, and other times we're talking about being able to feed off the energy of a crowd, right? Because everybody kind of gives off and has excess energy that they're just kind of putting out there, and to be able to kind of engage with that and feed off that is not wrong.
No, and I think what Ben's talking about, everybody's been to a concert and felt the energy of a crowd and just felt how amazing that feels.
Or been to Salem.
And felt all of
October
that.
And the crowds out here are amazing.
It's just such an awesome environment and vibe.
Yes, it's absolutely the best time to go. I experience that when I can. I don't know about this year, but I'm definitely I've definitely experienced it. I love the calm afterwards too. When the season has been over, I went to the when the Kirk Hammond exhibit was in Salem. Went to the Peabody Essex Museum to show somebody the last week the exhibit or whatever, and just I felt the energy of Salem was still there, but definitely was at a calm because it was after Halloween. But it was still just really exciting. And also it was a date. It was very romantic. It was very it had just got done raining, so the sky, everything in Salem was still very misty and foggy. Middle of November, we dressed to be at a horror exhibit the best way we could with our fancy dress and stuff like that. So I definitely got all of that kind of energy, and we both agreed, I did at the time, that it was just this absolutely amazing feeling to be there that night.
It's unmatched.
Yeah. We absolutely
really
love this city.
When you said you yourself is a vampire, what does that mean?
I do identify as a vampire.
Well, I think specifically with Lex, I think not many people realize it, but she's a trained energy worker, pretty complex energy work, and I think that's a big part of why she says she identifies as a vampire. Mm-hmm. Myself, I like to think of myself more of a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. However, the more time I've spent in Salem, the more time I've spent around Lex, and just in the shop and in the community in general, I'm a little more attuned now to.
He's growing so well.
So like the energy side of things, I'm able to realize things and feel things shift sometimes.
Become one of us. One of us. It's bliss. I'm reminded of an episode of The Simpsons. I think they're all turned into vampires, and they're all just like, ah.
I also identify as a vampire witch, and that's something that fits very well into Salem.
Yes. I remember you talking about that. I remember you telling me about that at the last event in October last year when you were dressed up in the long red dress, the hair, the headpiece or whatever. It looked like a giant star exploding above your head.
Yes, that headpiece was so awesome. That came from My Witchery, and she's in.
She hand makes all over in Germany.
She does, Germany. That's where it is. Yep. So she makes all of the headpieces that I wear to all of our events. She's absolutely a brilliant artist, and her headpieces fit awesome, and I love them.
Your dress looked completely unmovable, kind of like the the blonde alien in Mars Attacks, where she was barely able to move and just kind of gliding around.
We painted on me before the events.
Oh, like body paint? Like you're nude and then body painted?
Yeah, totally. No, I'm kidding, but all of my dresses are very, very well fitted.
Oh, okay. I missed that activity that night then.
Yeah.
You guys have some crazy stuff or whatever. The belly dancing and the flame throwing and like the flame eating and not flame throwing, excuse me, flame eating.
I think the event that you attended, we had is it Brianna Belladonna? Is that her name?
Yep.
Yes.
So she's a sword swallower, and she swallowed that night in an LED sword.
Yes.
And I remember she tilted her head back, and you could see, we shut the lights off, and you could see it down her throat. It was the coolest thing.
I know. It disappeared right into like the collarbone meets the neck. Aha!
That was a great event. That was a really, really fun night.
Yeah,
The event that we do, they're intimate and small. I think they're roughly about 200 people, but the energy from them is incredible. Everybody is loving being there, and the music is wonderful.
People are dressed to the nines.
Yeah.
I mean, people go all out, and we really try to set the stage and create a really classy, elegant environment.
Yeah.
But really dark.
I feel
dark elegance, I think, is what we strive for.
I feel so underdressed. Both times that I went in May with my co-host, and I went in October with my girlfriend at the time, and I just felt completely underdressed. I was just like, ugh! I just feel like I should just came in like a wife beater and cut off shorts or whatever the way I'm dressed compared to like this person and that woman and so on and so forth.
Well, you'll have to come in the shop again before our next event, and we'll outfit you with some shrine.
There you go. That's what I do. I gotta start. I will. We got plenty of time between now and then for me to save up for a better looking outfit.
Perfect.
In your shop, which is just like decked out, like the most gothic, coolest looking thing, whatever. I never have more than like 5 to 10 minutes, and maybe it's sometimes the company I'm with. I'm not entirely sure, but more than 5 to 10 minutes to explore everything about the shop or whatever. What's something that stands out to people when they come in, or that you want to point out? And then we'll get to my next question before we let you go.
As soon as people walk in the shop, I think we hear a couple things over and over and over again. Number one is that when people who haven't been to Salem before picture Salem, what they think Salem looks like in their mind, they walk into our shop and we hear them say, "This is what I thought Salem was going to look like."
You in the store next door too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it's I think we really try to create a different vibe in the shop than any other store you'll visit when you're here.
We're crazy and hand curate every single thing that comes in, from our sterling silver that takes us hours and hours to pick out every single piece that comes in, to our apparel that we do in-house, and now our masks and bandanas that we're doing in-house too. But we spend a lot of time curating and just kind of...
People can tell.
Yeah.
And we hear that time and time again too. I mean, the shop's kind of like a showroom, if you want to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
People can tell that a lot of thought goes into it.
We also hate clutter, so there's that too.
We do. So we take a very minimalist approach. The design in our shop is very clean and is an interesting mix of kind of dark Gothic and modern design, which I think really stands out. And overall, it's great energy in the shop.
We're like contemporary goths that are shiny.
Yeah, we like nice things.
What is a piece of vampire media, this could be book, comic book, TV, video game, or movie, or play, that you love and hate? And you can throw whatever you want under the bus. This is a open air, completely speak your mind environment. Go ahead.
I don't hate anything.
Oh, come on.
No,
there has to be
real.
something.
I appreciate every single, especially with film. I appreciate sometimes how crappy it is. I appreciate for what they're trying to pull off. If I had to pick something that I hated so much I loved it, it would be Twilight, because what the hell? But I know what they're trying to do. I think that they accomplished it very well. Something I love, the True Blood series, is really kind of near and dear to my heart. And then going back to like Interview with a Vampire, and we play Nosferatu like on repeat in our shop over and over again because it's such a beautiful classic film.
I think I've got to be drawn to the Lost Boys because that was one of the first. That was
such a good movie.
That was like my first kind of mainstream introduction to vampires when I was a kid and I was growing up was Lost Boys, and so I'd say that I'm drawn definitely to that. Definitely Lost Boys. the nostalgia.
Rice, Michael, you're eating rice.
Right. I mean, it was one of my first. It was pretty much my first vampire film.
Yes.
Like when I was a kid growing up.
And how about them sequels? Woo!
Oh boy.
Sequel.
Again,
there's only one real Lost Boys here, right?
That's true.
I think on the things that I would hate, and hate's a really strong word. And so I want to be careful here. I don't hate Twilight.
No.
I hate the fact that the vampires don't have freaking fangs.
That bothered me a lot.
That still bothers me.
Yes.
Just because fangs are so they're so important. That's part of what makes a vampire a vampire.
But their eyes. So it's just like they screwed up on one end, but they redeemed themselves on another and created this
cool,
beautiful vibe of the love and all of the stuff in Twilight.
I get it, but give them some goddamn fangs.
But you say that. Here's the problem, though. You say that, but think about the Universal monster movies. They, like Daughter of Dracula, she didn't have fangs. I don't even remember Bela Lugosi having fangs. And
Bela Lugosi had class.
Yeah.
He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman.
There you go. That's what it is. The original Universal monster movies had class, and what we got in 2008 to 2014, I believe, and coming back up again apparently, was not class. I interviewed once. Do you know who Marv Wolfman is?
I do not.
Marv Wolfman was the writer of the Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Teen Titans, but best known for in the 70s is one of the people Marvel picked to be like, hey, guess what we can do again? We're allowed to do supernatural creatures because the Comic Code Authority is not a bunch of tightwad SOBs anymore. So we're going to do every freaking dead creature we can possibly put into print. So they did a werewolf book, a vampire book, a zombie book, a mummy book, a Frankenstein book. They did everything. Satan worshipping, woo, that was popular again. We're going to create a Son of Satan character, bare-chested with giant logo, and he's gonna ride a flaming chariot, and we're gonna stick a guy on a motorcycle with a flaming skull. So they did
majestic.
Yes, because the Comic Code Authority was a bull cocky. You couldn't be gay, you couldn't be promoting drugs, you couldn't talk about drugs, you couldn't have dead creatures. So we had to come up with new ways to get around these things. One of the ways Marvel did it was like, hey, guess what? So he's a scientist with a blood problem, so he's a living vampire because he never died. Ha ha ha! That's how we get around that. And then years later, they did Tomb of Dracula. So Marv Wolfman did Tomb of Dracula, which created Blade the Vampire Hunter. And he came on my show years later, and we were talking about this, and he said to me, I've never seen any version of Dracula ever in my entire life, and I don't ever plan to. And he's like 70-something years old, so I guess I could believe it. But he's read the novel, and he based his Dracula... Oh, sorry, he said he only ever saw the Jack Palance movie, because that's where they based Dracula off of in the original Marvel version of Tomb of Dracula. Nowadays, he's all like Fabio with red armor on. But that he has just no knowledge of the original, movies whatsoever. He doesn't want to, even to this very day.
I guess maybe having no knowledge of that maybe will give you I guess it doesn't influence or taint your maybe current and modern interpretation or your artistic direction if you had nothing influencing it, I suppose. Maybe that's one take. I don't know.
And I always encounter, because I used to work at I used to work for, what was the bookstore that went out of business that was a computer to Barnes & Noble? Borders. I worked at Borders. And then I went over to Barnes & Noble and found I had to leave Barnes & Noble because it wasn't as fun as Borders. But I was working there when Twilight was exploding. And every time I had a little girl, mostly 90% of the times it was little girls, teenage girls coming up with their mother to buy Twilight. I always asked them, have you read this? And I pointed to like Dracula, which I always kept a stack of Draculas next to where they were coming up to me just to be like, buy this, buy this. And they're like, what's that? I've never heard of that. And I just had to like go in the back room and just put a hole in the wall where my head just continually hit it.
Understood.
Do you ever have what's the most ridiculous question you guys get asked when somebody comes in the shop who has never been to Salem before that you must do the slap of the forehead after they've left?
I do have a funny story of kind of the same thing, but not really. It's not really a repetitive thing. But last year, I was standing at the front door because we often have a line in front of our shop And so I was standing being the door lady, and there was a gentleman who came with his daughter and his wife, and he said, "I don't want to go in. You two can go in." And they begged him to come in. He wouldn't come in. So I was standing outside with him, and I said, "Are you sure you don't want to come in?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't like what you guys are doing in there." And I said, "Okay." And he said, it's not safe. You guys are doing real stuff in there." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Sir, I got to tell you, I just watched you walk out of the witch shop next door. What are you thinking is going on here?" And he said, well, you're real in here and they're fake next door." And I said, "Sir, you do realize that witchcraft is real, right?" And he said, "You're pulling my leg." And I looked at him and I said, "Where did you think you were bringing your family on vacation? Like, this is not Disneyland. I can assure you, you have nothing to fear inside of my store." He was very unhappy with the situation, because I don't think he really quite understood that we are a city full of wonderful practicing witches, and we're a very kind community, but we're certainly not Disneyland by any means.
I get,
and that didn't answer your question. You're welcome.
No.
I get, and this isn't really it's not really a question, but I guess it is kind of a question. I get a lot of people that will poke their head in and be like, "Oh, I'm just looking for my friend. Are they in here?" And they'll like not really come in, but just like pop their head in. And I'll just kind of stop and I'll pause and I'll look at them, and you can see our entire shop from the door. So I'll turn and I'll say to them, "Oh, I see. Your friend's gone missing, and naturally you come looking at the vampire store first." So we do hear that one kind of repetitively. I mean, it's innocent, but I just kind of turn it into something funny. It's also a fun joke we play on people too. It's fun. I have a good time.
But I would say that the number one thing people come in and ask, and the blood thing, I think, is
people do ask that all the time.
The blood thing.
And I think, I mean, it's just because of probably the way it's been portrayed in pop culture and in movies and things like that. But I think people are shocked when they realize just how small of a percentage that actually is of people.
Or that people even that people even do it. And, they ask if we're immortal and if we fly and like all of the stuff. But
I think it's cool though, because when they come in with questions like that, we kind of get.
It's usually the pop culture stuff. Sometimes we have fun with them, but mostly we just kind of tell them the truth.
Yeah,
that's too funny. I could definitely imagine some people just not completely grasping, reality from fiction and things like that, and their preconceived notions. I've seen it so often in like people who have never gone to a horror convention in their lives. And it is I always usually have to defer to like somebody else to answer like questions that I'm just not able to do, and just being like, "You take this, I'm gonna go run to the bathroom," especially if I'm running a booth. I'm gonna go run to the bathroom. So throw my helper under the bus to deal with whatever happens to be coming at that I'm not able to deal with. And you guys definitely do it with such professionalism and gusto that's fantastic. So hopefully nobody comes back to be like with vendetta, like on YouTube, not YouTube, Facebook or something, to leave a bad, whatever, just out of just the stupid comments people leave online sometimes, which is really great. Are you guys doing anything for Halloween this year with everything going on? That
we are enjoying Halloween for the first time in many, many years. We'll be in Salem for sure. And I think we may actually dress up and have some fun this year. I think the whole shop is kind of, all of us are talking about doing some kind of like family costume thing. So I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'm very excited about it because we haven't really dressed up in a really long time.
I meant, like, is the shop gonna, because you guys aren't doing the ball, is there anything, I mean, a lot of activities in Salem have been because of this whole, problem that we're having, but is there anything that you guys want to, like, mention that you have coming up happening at the shop? Or do you guys not have anything going on?
Shop, but the Endless Night New Orleans is going to be that weekend. So we are talking about doing a screening of that. So it's not going to be a live event. It's going to be a hybrid live event.
Well, there'll be some live, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
There'll be some broadcasting happening from NOLA.
Yep.
And we may do some kind of like
live streaming,
some cross live streaming out of Salem and things like that. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of like Halloween, which would like the New Year's Eve kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I was going to say, keep your eyes open for stuff coming on that, because there may be some fun chances for your listeners to be a part of something really grand, kind of a world record of sorts.
Yes.
Awesome. Sweet.
That weekend.
Fantastic. We got what do we have vampire related coming up here? We have well, I was the narrator of an audiobook over in Britain, which finally, after a year of just a lot of just Amazon related nonsense, I think it's finally coming out. So I'm the narrator of a book from England by an author named Margarita Felice. Why don't you guys give away your social media where people can find you?
All right. So on Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/Vamp Fangs. On Instagram, you can get us at the handle at Vamp Fangs Official. And you can always find us online at vampfangs.com. That is the e-com site. I know we've got lots of new stuff getting ready to roll out on there. Lots of new stuff coming over these next coming weeks and heading into the end of the year.
We have been busy.
Very busy.
Awesome. Fantastic. We will definitely continue sharing it on our social media. We talked about it a bit when we were covering on the podcast I do, which is now currently on hiatus, the Vampire Movie Minute podcast, where we covered Lost Boys, and then we were doing Once Bitten, and we plugged all the different Vampire Ball events when we were covering Lost Boys last year.
Awesome.
Thank you both for coming on the show. Really do appreciate it. You guys both have a safe and happy Halloween.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you so much for having us.
And you as well. And best of luck with all your projects as well.
Thank you.
Exciting stuff.